What's up? What's up? What's up? Good morning, Mike.
Own.
There it is. How are you, man?
Here we are. Dude, I'm fantastic. How you doing?
I'm awesome. I'm awesome. We've got my son Ace is turning 4 tomorrow, and so we got the birthday party this weekend. We got like ice cream carts and bounce houses, and I got to go trim a bunch of bushes and all kinds of stuff. Apparently, that's important,
right? I mean, it's important, right? It's got to get done. It's got to get done.
Is it?
Hey, you know what? I got a new blue light that's behind me on that side.
I really like it. Is that like a calming light?
Yeah, it's like a stand light, just to give like an accent or a color in the background when I'm doing a video.
I'm ordering one right now. Send me the link. I want one of those right now.
I actually have 2 of them. I got one for the other corner as well.
Oh,
it's not okay. If we're gonna show it off,
I'm gonna get one of those.
And these guys like doing these videos where they're not moving around and doing things like that, but they're very informative, like Graham Stevens or the Javier guy or some of the other guys. But they have a really nice background that focuses well, and so I'm trying to work on the lighting in the background and just all of it. I don't know.
It's actually so I use a MacBook Pro, and it's the red's a little nefarious. You got like a purple maybe? You're like, ooh,
green, got a blue.
Oh,
there's an app. I haven't done the app or anything like that, but there's an app you could do like any of the colors, right?
Oh,
yeah, I was thinking purple. That'd be nice.
I like purple.
It's kind of nifty.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the real estate Q&A. If it's your first time on here, we answer anything you want to know about real estate. Throw the questions in the chat. Throw it anywhere. Mike Perna is the CEO of the Perna team. I'm Austin Pothast, I'm the director of sales. We're combined to like damn near 40 years in the business. So anything else,
there we go.
Anything you want to know. But anyway, so Mike, that light is outstanding.
It's not bad, right?
It's really good.
Yeah. I've got 2 of them. And my thought was like, once I get this place like really set up, I'll have the darker background, I'll have the lights in the front, and then I'll have the 2 side lights kind of just accenting off.
You know what you're making me think of? I bought like these strip lights for my deck.
Yeah,
I ended up hanging the Edison light bulbs instead.
Yeah.
I don't know where I bought them from. I don't know where the receipt is. I've had them for too long. It's like I'm never going to be able to return them. But I wonder if I don't just put them in my office, like around the office.
I think that would look good.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do it.
Good. Gosh, and I wonder if I can find. Let's see.
We're going to get to the real estate part, by the way, guys.
We are going to get to the real estate part. Okay, we should probably get to the real estate part.
We just have ADD. That's all.
Especially.
Okay. There's a bunch going on. What's on your mind, real estate wise?
Dude, there's a lot going on right now.
It really is. This is probably a really informative video.
We're sitting down for this because we got a lot to talk.
There we go. So we're seeing, okay. So to your point, and I was actually doing a lot of research on this. We're seeing the highest number of mortgage applications right now that we've seen all year.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we've got the highest number of homes on the market that we've seen all year.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting to me. So the original projection was we were going to see somewhere around 5.9 million home sales this year.
Yep.
And now I'm starting to see revisions come out showing upwards of 6.0, 6.05, or 6.1 million home sales. So it's not that the extra homes on the market are going to cause the prices to go down. Yep. It's that the number of sales are going to go up another upwards of 250,000. Yep. I mean, we're talking like in 1 quarter. That's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's so one of the things that we track, the National Association of Realtors. Hey, good morning, Carrie. One of the things that the National Association of Realtors tracks, and also the Mortgage Banker Association, the National Mortgage Banker Association. What is the name of their organization? Do I have that right?
Yeah, the Mortgage Bankers Association.
Yeah, the Mortgage Bankers Association.
Yeah, they call themselves the MBA.
The MBA, the NBA.
Really funny.
The NMBA. Anyway,
all right. If you're a mortgage,
they track is
Yeah.
One of the so just in economics, there's leading indicators and there's lagging indicators, right? And so
Yeah.
one of the things that we track on our end as a leading indicator is inventory, and we track things like mortgage applications as a leading indicator. And so when you look at it, it's actually the highest amount of mortgage applications since April, nationally. And so something that a lot of people don't know, and so although it probably speaks to the common sense wise, like the number one month for transactions in America, right? Home purchases, home sales is like June, and it's followed closely by May, and then it follows closely by July, and then it kind of goes April, August are about the same, and then it goes kind of March, September about the same, and then the fall months start to take over a little bit more. But anyway, there's about a 60 to 90 day kind of lag between mortgage applications and when those home sales show up, right? And so for perfect example, April was the highest amount of mortgage applications. And we're not talking percentages. We're not talking about comparatively. We're talking about like the amount, like just count them up, bean counter them, right? And then that turns into June, right? So April, 60 days after April is June, July, and you see the highest amount of home sales, right?
Yeah.
And so if in August we had the highest amount of mortgage applications, it's probably safe to assume that before Thanksgiving, we're going to see almost like a spring summer market.
Yeah.
Right.
Really well.
And I imagine, and oftentimes what we see kind of seasonality wise, not just in Michigan, but nationwide, although it's a little more pronounced in Michigan, you kind of see a drop off happen around Thanksgiving, and then it cruises for a while. And then you see a big drop off Christmas week. Just people are doing the holiday thing, and then it ramps back up. Kind of people start back up in January, and then it really ramps up in February and in March. But anyway, I think we might just see a spring market this fall.
Yeah, we didn't see that as much last year. And I'm looking for an actual graph that Gary had. So Gary Keller Williams, who just watches all this stuff. This is kind of like his gig, right? It's his job. He stays in front of this stuff. He believes that we're going to see a stronger second half of the year than the first half of the year this year, just like we did last year. And we did see that last year. So we're going up in number of home sales, not down on a national scale. It'll probably affect Metro Detroit a little bit less because of weather, because that's just usually what happens. But at the same time, it's not going to affect it that much less, because what happens nationally is what happens locally. There we go. Okay. Yeah. So seasonality, let's see here. So it's a first half of the year versus second half of the year. See, and in 19, we saw the same thing happen.
Do you want to text me that graph and I'll pull it up?
How's that?
There you go. Okay.
Yeah. So in 19, we saw that. I can't. It's backwards.
No, it comes out right on our end.
Okay, good. Okay, good. So see where 2020 was just, there we go. Now it's in focus. 2020 was just amazingly skewed to the second half of the year.
Yeah.
And the anticipation is 2021 and 2019 was as well. Usually it's not that skewed. Usually the second half of the year is actually a little lower, typically, than the first half of the year. But in 2020, essentially taking 60 days out from home sales, because that's what happened, right? Yeah. So we saw, March 23rd, we went into lockdown. So March through April, and then the beginning part of May, it was really difficult to show homes. And the number of properties that were sold, that kind of 45-day period, was down between 30 and 40%, depending on the city, depending on the area, of what we would typically see. And again, it's not that those people did not buy homes. They just didn't buy homes that month. Right? And for the most part, those were all first-time home buyers. Now, the 60% that did buy homes, those were people that were already in the middle of the move, because there were already people that had sold their properties or were already preparing to get their properties on the market, or were middle purchase, or whatever was going on. But going into February and March, like pre this whole thing just kind of happening in 2020, like the guy that sold a $600,000 house and was moving down to a $300,000 first floor condo, that was still happening. Like there was no stopping that train. The home was sold. He had to make a purchase in April. There wasn't a choice, right? So that was the 60%. The people that were already in process just continued with the process, right? And then that 40% kind of held for a minute, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, whatever that looked like. Watch interest rates the second half of 2020. And we've been kind of lopsided because in 2019, we saw interest rates come down in the second half of the year a little bit, right? The president at the time really put a lot of pressure on the Fed to drop interest rates. We saw them come down a quarter to a half point. So the second half of 19 was very strong. Second half of 2020 was very strong. And what we're seeing now is the second half of 21 is becoming really strong. So the typical, cyclical or seasonality market that we've been used to for the last 30 years has kind of broken itself for these 3 years.
Yeah.
So who knows what's going to happen next year with it? Will it just even out? Will it swing back the other way?
Well, that's interesting because the narrative that we were talking about in 2020 was like after the pandemic.
Yeah.
It wasn't as though one of the narrative that we talked about after the pandemic was these home moves haven't been erased. They've been displaced.
Yeah.
It's not so like someone that was going to move in April of 2020 but couldn't because of the pandemic. It's not like they didn't move. They just waited until September.
They just didn't move at that moment.
That's right. And so that's interesting that we're seeing. That's not typical, right? That's not like a typical historical thing.
Yeah, it's not.
You know what else is interesting? The other thing that we're seeing, we actually, although this is a national scale, and so we have a huge advantage. I mean, look, if I'm being really honest, we have a huge advantage on some of this data, and here's why. One, look, we're top 20 in the country real estate team for Keller Williams, and so we have access to Gary. We do, like flat out. We have access to Gary, and Gary is running the largest real estate organization, certainly in America and maybe the world. And so just because of that, we just have more data. He just has like a more broad view. We just have more data points than other places, right? And we have that advantage here locally because of the amount of transactions that amount of families that we help here locally. Like we just start to see things 2 months before they really start to happen. We just 2 months, 3 months, 6 months before they start to happen, even a year sometimes. And so we have an advantage. We just have more data points, right?
Well, we see the shifts. I mean, almost down to a weekly basis because like last month we helped 96 families move. Right? That's 20 families a week.
Yeah.
Any little undercurrent, we see it, and we see it immediately.
Yeah, we just pick up on patterns immediately, and we also have the added benefit. We're old guys, so like we're not like old guys, but we're old guys, so we've been around some of the patterns, right? So we just notice them. But anyway,
and it's
the other
interesting
pattern that you're starting to see is around affordability, and although these are national numbers, it's actually even more accentuated in here in the Midwest, because here in the Midwest, housing is still affordable.
It really is, which is really interesting to me. So we've got a client that's coming in from California right now, and they're just like unbelievable. Like they're like, I can get how much? I could do what? And they're thinking about retiring back to Michigan because their kids are here and their grandkids are here. I actually showed them. I sent them that listing that castle house that just sold in Rochester.
Yeah.
Because that's about what they're selling their home for. In their home in California, they're in the greater LA area.
Yep.
They're selling their home for about 2.4. That home was on the market for 2.3. The home in California is 1,600 square feet, no basement, 1-car garage. This home is 10,000 square feet with a 6,000 square foot finished basement. I think it has a 4-car garage, if that's right. And it's on a couple of acres.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an amazing difference. And if you guys don't know, the Castle House, and I'll see if I can find a link to it, There was this Game of Thrones house that was just amazing. I mean, literally, this guy built this house. It was a castle with a moat.
It had a moat.
With a moat. Did you see that one?
Yeah. It was like Knights of the Round Table. Yeah.
Yeah. I got called by WJR on that one. Like, hey, can you talk about the castle house?
That's right. You got interviewed about that house.
Okay.
But no, here in the Midwest, while you're looking up that, like,
yeah,
it's just really affordable. And
it is.
It just really is. And we're seeing kind of a trend. You know, I would say, so I graduated college, Mike, in 2003.
Yeah.
And I mean, not all of my college friends, but 75% of my college friends went somewhere else. They went to Phoenix, they went to Baltimore, they went to San Diego, they left. And we saw that there was like, matter of fact, there was even like for those of you guys that remember, they called it the brain drain, right? It's like you would just see young, educated people, and we just experienced a 15-year period of people leaving Michigan.
It was an amazing number of people that left Michigan.
It was an incredible.
They went everywhere. They went to Denver. They went to California. They went to Florida. Like everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were making jokes like last one to leave, turn the lights off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it started to reverse. It's kind of like bell-bottom jeans, Mike. You wait around long enough, everything comes back in style, right?
Nope.
Except for bell-bottom jeans, but you know what I mean.
Except for some of the stuff the kids are wearing nowadays. Like what is happening? Like some of this 80s stuff and even early 90s stuff. Like there's like modified hammer pants now. Like I'm like, what is happening? Like they weren't cool when MC Hammer had them on. They're not cool today.
We were at a restaurant or something, and I went, and this girl walks in, a young girl, and I was like, Nicole, when did the girls start dressing like Blossom again? What is going on? But anyway, it's like what's new is old and what's old is new again. And anyway, so that's my funny way of saying things are cyclical. They just are, right? And so we're seeing it reverse. We're just seeing people come back because it's like, holy cow, the lifestyle and what we get is it's really outstanding, right? So anyway, we're actually even experiencing this even more. Oh, this is the Game of Thrones house.
Did that come up?
Yeah, it did.
Look at this thing. It's crazy.
5 bed, 5 full, 2.5 baths. Okay.
And I don't even have all the pictures because somebody is actually buying this. It's pending right now. But it's craziness. It's on 6 acres, surrounded by an iron fence and 2 gated towers. 60 tons of steel and construction. Over 6 years to build. 6 furnaces, 6 ACs, secret rooms, hidden doors, hidden passageways. And for the low monthly payment of $7,600.
That's literally what I was thinking in my head. For the low payment of $7,655, it's yours.
God, it's crazy. I wish I had more photos of it, but this home was just because once something goes pending, they pull the photos off of our study, Zillow, all of it. But I put the link in there as well if anybody wants to.
I bet you we can find all the photos.
Yeah.
Anyhow. Anyhow, so you just see people move back. You just are. It's affordable.
Yeah.
I actually, so one of the things that we run into quite a bit is not quite a bit. Let me downgrade that. It's not quite a bit, but we do run into it. So we run into people saying, I'm going to wait this thing out. I'm going to wait the market out. I'm going to wait till it drops. It's got to drop. I can't believe things are selling for what they are. Right.
Yeah.
We just see it. We don't see it like it's not every client all the time, but we see it.
No, we see people say it, which is, and that's really interesting to me because that happened already. It just happened different than I think people thought that it would. So, and here's what I mean by this. So people, and I'm guilty of this as much as anybody else, if not more so. When I'm thinking of a price of a thing, I'm thinking of the sticker.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair?
Yep.
I'm not thinking about any of the other numbers surrounding it. So I'm thinking about when I look at, and like I'm looking at homes right now myself. I'm looking at homes right now myself, and I had to make a major mental adjustment because when I started out and I was looking at property, I was looking at a certain price range because I started looking 2 years ago, stopped looking for a minute, and now I'm looking again, right?
Yeah.
And my price went up 30%, both to get actually a little more home, which is nice. And that's nice because affordability, but because again, home values have gone up 18% year over year. So I've got to adjust that expectation. But then the actual payment, even though my price went up 30%, my payment will go down about 10%.
There you go, man. You got me?
Mm-hmm. There you go. Yeah, it is a 4-car. Okay.
That is wild.
That house is crazy.
Oh my gosh, is that the...
That's the master bedroom, I think, right?
That is awesome.
It's just there in the middle of nowhere.
It's awesome.
It's so good.
It's so cool. You're right. That's the master bedroom. It has like a tower that goes straight up.
I feel like it'd be a great second or third house, but probably not the first house.
Well, I mean, if you're into this kind of thing,
You know what? It would be a great Airbnb.
That would be a great Airbnb, except for, God, could you ever fetch enough to actually make it worth it? Or would it just become like a national destination?
Well, it's like the Blockbuster Airbnb, right?
I don't know about that.
Oh, okay. So the last Blockbuster in the U.S. was bought by a private guy a couple of years ago.
Okay.
The last one, and he turned it into an Airbnb.
Okay.
So he's got all the videos, he's got like the old VHS, he's got the TVs, he's got all that stuff. And you can literally just rent it by the night.
Yeah.
So I mean, well, and look at the other, right? So that's $7,600 a month. So let's call it $10,000 a month.
Well, I got my calculator here. So 2.3.
All $2,500 a week, $3,000 a week for a stay.
So that means you're financing 1.84 on a.
Yeah.
What are you getting on a jumbo right now?
I think we're getting what, 3.6, 3.75.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go 3.75.
It's not horrible. It's not horrible.
No, it's awesome. It's awesome. So that's 20% down. That's 85.21 plus your taxes and insurance. That's a actually, if you include taxes and insurance, that's probably, what do you think? $11,000 out the door payment.
Yeah, let's call it 11,000.
11 grand.
So as long as you're getting, let's call it 3,000 a week, which 3,000 a week. Yeah, 3,000. Well, you're paying down the mortgage as well, divided by 7. So check this out. So 3,000 a week is $428 a night, right? Which is not cheap. Which is not, and I'm not.
No, but that's no. But if look, you could. That's what you do is you charge $1,000 a night, and that way you don't have to have a rent.
I mean, even if you charge $500 a night, you're doing well.
Okay. For the record, I'm out.
What's out?
Do with this business proposition.
Yeah, no, we should be doing this. Okay, during peak season, Jada. Night.
Yeah, but a place like that, what's peak season?
Halloween, probably. I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know.
Halloween week right there is 10 grand, 15 grand.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good one. Because like some of those homes that are over, what was that, Oakland Hills, some of those are getting 30,000 a week or 40,000 a week for that like 10-day period, right?
Too bad it's not 2004 because the rap video market on this, like the music video market for that home would be through the roof.
Yup.
It's awesome. It's so cool.
Yeah. And since we're on the subject, we're having a little bit of fun. I mean, let me see if I can pull this guy up right here. There you go.
What do you got? End of summer, sleepover, last blockbuster.
Look at this thing. It's a real thing. He's got it all.
Charge of $4 a night.
That can't be $4 a night. I would do that. That's awesome.
That is great. It's great.
It's got Wi-Fi.
Hey.
The old blockbusters did not have Wi-Fi.
Hey, it's not nothing. Not nothing.
So now we're talking about wacky real estate, and we probably should have a week where we actually look up and talk about all the wacky real estate.
That'd be kind of fun.
That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, good theme. All right. Anyway, so what were you talking about before on that?
We were talking about affordability. We were talking about
Yeah. Thank you.
So there are a lot of people that are saying, "Hey, we're waiting for this big bubble to burst, or whatever this looks like." And again, there's no indicator that there's a bubble bursting on, let's call it, the top price of a home, right? Like if a home was worth 200,000 and it's gone up to 300,000, people are waiting for it to come back down to 200,000 or 250 or 275 or 220 or anything with a 2 and not a 3.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing: with the way interest rates went, that home at 200,000 that's now 300,000, you're paying a $200,000 price on a monthly payment.
Yeah.
So that was the change that happened. And I really saw that just when I was looking myself, and I was looking at my own home payments, and I was looking at my own mortgage. I'm like, holy heck, I can get not 18% more home, but closer to 30% more home for the same monthly payment.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I will, but I can. Right? And that's a big number. That's a big number. Yeah.
Well, look, people that are waiting this out. The argument falls apart in 3 ways, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Right. So here's your scenario. If you're waiting this out, ready? You're either renting and buying.
Mm-hmm.
You're either downsizing. I'm here, but I want to go down here, or you're upsizing. Right? It's like a lifestyle thing.
Yeah.
Anything else? I mean, that's the arguments. I mean, those are the three reasons that of the people that are saying, I'm going to wait this out. I mean, that's it.
And that's
if it's a job transfer, you got to move. If it's hey, we had another baby and need another bedroom, you got to move, right?
Yeah.
If it's but that's it. The people that are saying, I'm going to wait this out, they're either renting. Mike, what am I missing here? They're either renting, downsizing, upsizing.
I think the key to this thing, and just putting this out there, like if you're my parents, right? And you're considering downsizing, or you're considering maybe redoing your kitchen and bathroom or whatever that looks like, which is what they're kind of struggling with right now. Mm-hmm. The reality is, it doesn't matter what they do. There's no wrong answer, right? They could downsize into the condo. Mm-hmm. They could, or they could hire a lawn service and just have the lawn done, right? It's a new enough home that there's nothing that's going to happen in the next 10 years to the house.
Sure.
That's going to be a major deal, like a roof or a furnace or anything like that. Like that, like it just, they're right there in that sweet spot where they could get max value if they sell, because they still have 10 years on all the mechanicals, right? And if you wait till the end of life on all that stuff, the value of that specific home, not the market, but that specific home is less than a home that's 10 years newer, where you're halfway through the mechanical used, right? Just the wear and tear on it. It's irrelevant. I mean, they could move, they could not move. We looked at taxes, we looked at insurance, we looked at utilities, we looked at, because I was like, all right, guys, well, you should probably downsize. And they're thinking about going from Farmington Hills to South Line, from a house to a condo, from 3,500 square feet to 2,000 square feet. And what we found was that the actual yearly operational difference, including the taxes, insurance, and utility, is as big as we thought. It wasn't. And a lot of that has to do with when my dad built that house, he did extra insulate it. He did kick up the energy efficiency factor to a way high level because he built the house, right? It's just a better built house because he did it himself on an efficiency scale than that condo in South Lyon. The utility bills in the condo in South Lyon were actually worse when we got them. Not much, but just not better, right? You would think they'd be better at 1,500 square feet less. It wasn't. And part of that is it was a ranch. So all the hot air just goes up to the roof and then back up and out versus a colonial or a first floor master where there's a double ceiling trapping the hot air, right? Just physics. So then we started looking at, okay, well, if you love your location and you love your home and you've got everything you need here, and when my sister comes to town, they've got their own basically place to stay with the bedroom, the bathroom, second bedroom, second bathroom if they need it.
Yeah.
You lose all that with the condo and you're saving $2,500 a year. Is it really worth it? And that was a question I had is like, okay, we're talking $200 a month is what you're saving. Is it worth it? Because the other side is my parents' house is paid off. And they made the decision that for $200 per year, it's not worth it.
Sure.
And then we looked at, okay, what can we get rid of that the condo gave you? Lawn service, snow removal. And that's about it. That is literally it. So we're talking,
right? And the convenience factor, but yes,
yeah,
agreed.
So we're talking $100 a week.
Yeah.
Right. That's what we're really talking about.
Well, but you're also changing locations. So
yeah, and then you got the cost of the move, you got the PETA factor, all of that. You're right.
Yeah.
Then we had that discussion. And my mother loves that house because she designed it and she designed everything in it. And my father loves that house because he put his heart into the build of it, right?
Yeah.
That was their house. It's really their house.
Yeah.
Now the second part of that is, so that's one scenario where moving is irrelevant. We're talking, I mean, and yes, I'm not gonna sit here and say $2,500 a year is not a lot of money. It's a lot of money, but in the grand scheme, comparatively, it's a comfort play and a desire play. It's not a need play or a wealth play.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Mm-hmm. Now let's go to the first time home buyer. So first time home buyer, right now, average rents in Metro Detroit are bumping up just a little above $1,400 a month. $1,400 a month gets you around a $225 house right now with taxes and insurance.
Okay.
Is that fair? Mm-hmm. Give or take a little bit depending on what city it is. In some cities it's $250, in some cities it's $200. Just depends on what the taxes are and what the insurance is. But this is why, and again, to your point, Austin, this is where this argument falls apart. So if you buy the house at $225 or you rent, if you rent, you're going to write a check for $16,800 that year, and you're going to give it to the landlord, and the landlord's going to put it onto his mortgage.
Yep.
Right? Or put it in his pocket or some combination, or go buy a different property with it because that's enough for a down payment for another property, right? If he's got to pay it off property. Yep. Some combination of that will happen, right? And then at the end of that year, you have zero to show for it. Like legitimately zero. Like at the end of that year, all you have is the stuff that's contained inside that apartment, but you don't actually own it.
You don't even have a federal tax write-off. I mean, you get some state write-off money, but not like
a little bit.
Yeah, but that's the state income tax is 4.25%. It's like you rent. Anyway.
So let's go buy a house at $225. Right? Yeah. Great. Okay. Now you're paying the same thing. You're paying $1,450 a month, just like you were before. Taxes, insurance, utilities, blah, 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 blah. Right? Well, not utilities. That's to the side. You got the utilities no matter what. Now, over the course of that first year, you're going to pay down the loan. Let's call it $4,000.
Yep.
Right? In the first year, and if you're W-2, that means you're prepaying your taxes on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, depending on when you get your paycheck. You will get a check back from the federal government for, let's call it $2,500.
Yep.
That's
$6,500. Yep.
So that's $6,500. And let's pretend the property does not go up in value 1 penny. So that's $6,500
that you make.
Yep. Over 10 years, that's $65,000. And that's a very conservative number, because the amount that you pay down on the mortgage goes up every single month. Small might be $1, might be $2, but over the course of 10 years or 120 payments, let's call it $1 a month. That's $120 a month, each and every month more you're paying towards your principal balance, right? Yep. So it's more like 100,000 different over 10 years. And the average American is staying in their home for 10 years, right? Yep. Even if it's 5 years. Right? Even if it's 5 years, we're still talking about a $40,000 difference, $35,000 difference between what you get back from the government and what you paid down on the loan. And let's say at the end of that 5 years, your property value did go down 5%. I don't know how it could, but let's just pretend that it did. right? 5% of 225 is about 12, 13,000 bucks. So you lost 12, 13,000 on the house, but you picked up 30,000 or more between what you're paying down and what the government's giving you back.
Yeah.
So where I'm going with this is for the person that is a non-homeowner, the answer has always been get into a home.
Buy a
In
house.
all of U.S. history, there's never a time, even in 2006 and 7, the absolute peak before the crash of the last market, the answer was still get into a home.
Yeah.
It actually was. Because if you look at it, it was only 8% of Americans that went averse into some sort of a distressed situation, whether it was a short sale or a foreclosure on their property, which means that 92% of Americans didn't. If they waited 10 years, right, that puts you all the way up to 2016 or 2017. The value of that home was 100% recovered to 2006 and 2007. But what you also got was a $100,000 kicker on what you paid down and what you got back from the government.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's the same thing within just stock investing, right? With the retirement account. And you and I were talking about this the other day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a couple of books out there. One's Profit First, one's the Morgan Housel book, but showing that time and time and time again, the person that just invests the same amount of dollars every single month, irregardless of where, no, that's not a word, regardless of where.
It's one of my favorite non-words.
I know, it's one of my favorite non-words.
Irregardless, it just
irregardless.
It
feels nice.
fancy.
It feels nice. It's the punctuation of it, right? But regardless, I just stopped myself. I'm like, nope. But regardless of where the stock market goes, up, down, or sideways, you will 100% of the time come out on top as long as you make a monthly deposit.
Yep. Dollar cost averaging is what they call it. They just call it cost averaging. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that that's what the implicit fear is, right? The actual fear is I don't want to buy a house now and then have the market go down and buy high. I actually think that's what the fear is with the
and again, that's so interesting to me because I'm okay buying high in the market going down. And I'll tell you why. The next house I buy, I'm going to be in for 10 or 15 years.
Yeah.
Even if the market goes down 10%, I still won financially.
It doesn't matter.
I actually come out on top financially.
Yeah. And look, there's never been a 5-year on a macro scale. Like this is macro. This isn't like individual neighborhoods or individual cities, but on a macro scale, on a large scale, there's never been a 5-year period in American history where you would have lost money on real estate. So that's it. You know what I mean? It's like you're either buying a home and contributing to your wealth, or you're renting and you're not. Now there's other things at play here. Like I think renting makes sense for some people.
Well, absolutely. No, and there are a couple
of transition period, or like it's short term. Like sometimes it makes sense to rent, but
yeah,
I'm not discouraging renters by any means.
Well, and
I'm just saying, don't sit on the sidelines because. Sorry, Mike. Don't sit on the sidelines because you think that you're going to be able to time this thing. Go ahead. Sorry, Mike.
City, right? There's still rent control in some areas. You know, in certain parts of California, there's still rent control.
Yeah.
So some of these guys, like if you're anywhere near downtown in New York, and downtown being a big area, or let's call it San Francisco, right? If you've been renting for the last 20 years, chances are pretty good you should probably just keep renting. Because here's the situation. You're paying, if you've been renting for 20 years in San Francisco, I read this a while back, and I don't know it. Don't quote me on the exact numbers, but the average person is renting around $1,600, $1,700 a month, right in that
yeah.
range is well over $4,000 a month.
Yeah.
So whatever gains that you're picking up with a $2,500 a month difference is wiped out. So there are specific situations, depending on where you're at, where it does make sense to just keep renting if you've been a long-term renter. There are other situations, to your point, Austin. Like, I mean, if you're looking at being in a place for, let's say, 2 years or less, it probably makes sense just to rent.
Yeah.
The cost of purchasing plus the cost of selling, that you're wiping it out, and it's only once you get.
You know what's interesting is even
asking.
then you can make an argument, but yeah.
Yeah. People that are staying in their properties for about 3 years or more, I'm telling them, hey guys, just buy a property. Just buy a property, because you're going to pay off far more and get back on your taxes far more than the cost of acquisition plus the cost of sale.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like Gary says, you do want to hold this stuff long term. It doesn't matter, again, whether it's real estate or whether it's stocks, bonds, mutuals. It doesn't matter. You want, I mean, over a long term, you do want to hold this stuff. The more you go back, the more you go look at your money, he says, the more you lose. So when you sell a property and then go rebuy a different property, it costs money to sell and it costs money to buy.
You lose. Just hold on to it.
Yeah. And that's where I'm at. Like, I sell very few things when it comes to property or stocks.
Yeah.
Right? Like when I bought into Tesla, sure, Tesla went up and down and up and down and up and down. But at the end of the day, I'm up. I didn't panic and sell it, and I didn't go and rebuy it on the upswing. Minimizing. Yeah. And same thing with Apple.
Yep. Okay, so that's your argument on that. So then your next argument is, I don't want to move because, I don't have to move. I'm down. My intent is to downsize, but I don't have to move. Right. And the argument to that is this: it's like the market that you buy in is the market that you sell in.
True.
Like, this is probably the most no-brainer thing. If you're trying to time the market, the downside is probably the most no-brainer move. It's like, okay, you got a house that maybe 2 years ago was worth $400,000, but because the market has gone up 20%, it's now worth $480,000. And you're going to move into a house that 2 years ago was worth $300,000, but now because the market's up, you're paying $360,000. It's like you're $20,000 ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's okay.
That's not a bad thing. That's $20,000 right there, right?
Yeah.
The other reason people sit is like, okay, well, I'm upsizing. It's a lifestyle thing.
Yeah.
And they're trying to time things, trying to get a good deal on something.
Come to find out, that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
And come to find out, I could have gotten like a house that I bid on. That guy bought it 2 years ago and bought it for over 10% less than what it just sold for. That's a big number. That's a big number. So would I have been better off? Would I be better off waiting the next 4 or 5 years and hope that our market might go down, or buying today before the property goes up another 10%? And let's look at this, right? So right now, the argument for the market to go down is because I ask people, because when people say, hey, I think the market's going to crash, I legitimately ask people, and I just say, hey, great. You know what? Hey, I get it. I'm an evidence-based person. I want to know all the facts of the situation. I want to know if there's something out there that I'm not seeing, I need to be seeing, I'm not reading, I need to be reading, because I need to see around the corners, because I need to protect the team. I need to protect my team members. I need to protect my families that we serve in the market, all of it, right? That's the job. That is the job. And every single time I ask, I say, great, what are we seeing that's going to cause the market to go down? 90% of the time, they just opt out of the conversation, right? Because the evidence isn't there. It's a desire and a feeling. There's nothing tangible showing it. And there are a lot of times in this world where we've had desires and feelings like, hey, this is what I want to happen, so this is what I'm going to project into the universe, so it should happen, right? We see that with Facebook on our phones.
Yep.
Right? There was a TikTok the other day I watched that I thought was hilarious, where it was a guy from an alternate universe coming to Earth, and he was like touring a fair of things that they didn't have there, and one of them was social media. And it was like here's what social media does, and it shows him like a picture of puppies. And he's like, oh, that's nice. And then it shows him like a disaster happening, like a hurricane. And he's like, oh my God, that's terrible. And then the social media is like, oh, so you reacted more strongly to the hurricane. I'm going to show you more hurricanes. And then the next one was like a pail full of kittens, which was cute. He's like, well, that's nice. And then it was like a demon or whatever it is, like an Inquirer article. And the guy's like, oh my God, that's terrible. He's like, oh, you reacted stronger to that. We're going to show you more of that.
Yeah.
And it ended up being like just a series of horribleness that was shown to him because it matched what he was thinking in his emotion. That's what most people are thinking about the real estate market. They want it to happen, so they start talking to other people that want it to happen. And it's just a disastrous cycle. So in their news feeds, they're talking about these little micro things that come up that could potentially happen, but probably not. And there's no evidence for it that the market's going to go down, right? It's a feedback loop that we get ourselves into. But then once you start breaking out of the feedback loop and you start looking at things like unemployment rates, right? We're back below 5% ago. We went back below 5%. We started the month at 5.1. We're at 4.95%. We're moving in the right direction. Interesting. The reason why we're not below 4% unemployment is people have still opted out of the job market, not because they can't get employment. Drive up and down any street right now where there are restaurants and you will see help wanted signs everywhere. Go to any fast food place and you'll see they're starting them out at $14, $15, $16 an hour. Amazon is hiring people. They're winter workers. They're starting at $16 an hour plus bonuses this year because they're afraid they can't find 125,000 seasonal workers.
Yeah.
So Costco, like I was just there picking up this computer. The help wanted was $18 an hour plus benefits. And I'm not saying that these are great wages and you're gonna live life and build a family and build a home off of it, but I dare you to tell me that any of these places were paying $16 to $18 an hour starting, and I'm talking McDonald's 3 years ago.
No way.
3 years ago.
Probably half that, 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, here's another evidence point. People talk about the things that are important, but people don't talk about the things that don't matter. How many times have we heard the words, let's increase the national minimum wage in the last 90 days?
Oh, it's good point. I haven't heard it much.
Yeah. Heard it in January, heard it in February. But all of a sudden in May, June, July, all went away because it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Because the national minimum wage took care of itself.
Yeah.
So just simple supply and demand. Okay, so
dude, before you go on, can I tell you a crazy stat I just heard?
Yeah.
80% of minimum wage earners in Canada, 80% of minimum wage earners in Canada live in a household that's middle class or above.
So kids.
Which means that we'd be raising if you raise minimum wage in Canada, I don't know how it translates on America. I've been been fiddling around and trying to dig up data. But the impetus there is like the narrative that gets told in your head is like the minimum wage worker is the single mother of 2 trying to support her family. And that's not who a minimum wage worker is.
It's not the actual reality.
It's not. The minimum wage worker is like a college student.
Yeah.
Or like a high school
high school kid, somebody out there just earning a couple of extra bucks to bring into the family, but there's a secondary larger income that's there. Yeah. And it's because they can only work like a 4-hour-a-day shift or a 3-hour-a-day shift because there are kids in the morning, kids in the afternoon, but there's somebody else outside the home that's working longer, if that makes sense. So and to that point, when I was growing up, a couple of doors down, there was a family where the wife was working at General Motors and she had a fantastic income. She was a higher ranking executive engineer. And the choice was made that he would stay at home when the 2 kids were younger. And then once the kids went to work, he went and got a part-time job, working 4 to 5 hours a day. And it was more just like, I want to get out of the house than anything else. He didn't need to work. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think that's what we're really seeing as far as adulthood goes in a lot of those cases. Because right now you could walk into Costco and get $18 an hour starting. Yeah. Starting. That's not including the increase.
Blown away by that stat.
Yeah. And again, I'm not going to sit here and say that, a $30,000 a year income is something amazing that you can raise a whole family on and do all of the things. I mean, cost of everything is up, cost of diapers.
Oh, yeah, of course.
This cost of that. But I will say, if you've got two parents and they're both making 18 an hour, that's 70 a year.
Yeah, like
That's legitimately 70,000 a year.
it's a legitimate middle class life. Yeah.
Yeah. And then if that person goes and buys a home, well, you're getting an extra $2,500 kicker. You're probably paying a mortgage less than rent. So that's a smart move.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have an asset for later in life that you can draw on with a reverse mortgage if you need to. Because what happens when you stay, even if you were to stay in the same home for 30 years and pay the thing off and just make every payment off and just pay it off, let's call it a $100,000 house. At the end of 30 years, based on appreciation over 30 years, that $100,000 house that was a liability because there was a mortgage on it is a $350,000 paid off asset.
Yeah.
And then let's say you do decide to retire. And let's say, like many companies, they provide a crap retirement. And so you're on Social Security, some sort of a crap retirement. The pension sucks, whatever that looks like. You can go into the reverse mortgage situation, grab an extra $200 or $300 a month to make ends meet. You can't do that with an apartment. There's literally no argument to be made against home ownership in the United States. Literally none.
Yeah.
Excessive home ownership, yes, absolutely. I see a lot of people that buy, let's call it timeshares, right? Stuff like that. We all know them. We all have friends that went to the thing to get the free steak dinner, and 2 hours later they walked out and they're like, "Oh my God, I got a timeshare. I can go spend 3 weeks a year here," and then they never go there.
They never go. Yeah.
And they pay the $500 a year or $1,000 a year, whatever it is, the maintenance fees. Sure. Or the person that buys a second house that they only go to once or twice a year and just sits there empty. I've got friends like that. When I'm looking at them, like, what are you doing? Like you're severely strapping yourself financially and taking away from other things you could be doing for the dream property that you never actually go and see.
Yeah.
And the reason why you're affording it is because you're working 80 hours a week instead of 40 hours a week, which is the same reason why you can't go see it.
Yeah.
So I'm not arguing for excessiveness. I'm arguing for find a nice house that matches your needs. Probably a little nicer than the apartment. Maybe he's got a nice lawn outside to go have the kids play on, and buy it.
I even make the argument all the time. A good friend of mine was just buying a car, maybe a year ago, and he was like, "Man, I really kind of just want to get a used car for $15,000. You know what I mean? Like a." I was like,
Sure.
okay. I said,
That's
"Hey,
smart.
dude." I said, "Hey, just check into paying a little bit more than you want." He goes, "What do you mean?" I go, "Just go see what 20 gets you, right?" It's like, just go see what 20,000 gets you. It's like, just pay a little bit more than you want. And he was like, okay. And I was like, because here's the thing, man. Like, anyway, so he ended up getting, like literally a brand new car, like a brand new Jeep Cherokee. I don't know what it was. It was for $20,000 or $21,000 and it had been driven a little bit.
Yeah.
It was like a 1-year lease term or something. It had been driven like 8,000 miles or something. It's like you get a brand new car for $5,000 more, or you could get something with, 30 or 40,000 miles on it, and it was 2 years old. And I was like, look, but buy something just and the car was nicer and the new tech.
Yeah.
And it's like same thing with a house. Like I say this to people all the time. It's like I know you want your budget to be 250, but just like go check out what 275 gets you.
Yeah.
Go check it out.
Well, and look at it the other way. Let's say okay, my parents did that.
Yeah.
My parents did exactly that. My parents were looking back in the early 80s when they were looking to move, right? They were looking to move from Woodhaven to, well, at that time, Livonia, because that was where the affordability was. And they were looking at homes between 90 and about 105,000.
Yeah.
Okay. We ended up at Farmington Hills because they had a deposit on a house, and they were going to do the inspection, and they randomly walked into a neighborhood where a guy had walked off on a new build. And so instead of selling them the new build for 140, the guy was willing to part for it for 125, which was 20,000 beyond, 20% beyond their budget.
Yeah. 20,000 more than wanted to spend. Yep. Okay.
Yep. So it was ham sandwiches and folding chairs for the first 3 or 4 years.
Yep.
Is what it is, right? Like we did the newspaper on the windows instead of blinds, right? Like they barely scraped into the house, but they got there. And they had faith that with their professions, my dad being an electrician, my mother working, at that time she worked clerical for Yellow Freight, but then it ended up getting a job at the Farmingdale's Police Department, that things would get better and wages would improve, if incrementally, and life would get better. And sure enough, it did, because our interest rate at the time was above 12%. It was like 12.5, 12.75, somewhere in that range. And then my dad was able to refi a couple years later down to 9, which doesn't seem like an awesome thing, but it's an awesome thing. Took his payment down a couple $100 a month, kept chunked to, instead of paying less, they chunked away at that mortgage and they got rid of that 30-year mortgage in 12 years. And then they had that house paid off. Now the house in Livonia today is worth around 310, 315. The house in Farmington Hills is worth 430, 440,000.
Right.
Big difference. $20,000 difference then, $100,000 difference today. When they sold the home, they sold it for $337,500, if I remember right. It was right there, right below 340.
Yep.
But that was a pure $340,000 that they had in their pocket. So did they struggle for the first 2, 3, 4 years? Right? Did they have to choose? Okay, we're not going to go on the massive Disney trip for the first 3 years. I mean, granted, like when we moved in, I was 4 years old. Right? I was 3 actually. Still 3. It's about to be 4.
Yep.
Those 2 or 3 years, trips didn't matter. It didn't matter if we went to a Tomahawk, or it didn't matter if we just, got a tent from Kmart at the time and just went out back, frankly, like out back, like into the yard that we were.
Yeah. We used to do stuff like that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It didn't matter. All that mattered is we were together and having a good time. Yep. Especially at that age, especially at pretty much any age. I think sub 10 years old, you're just there, right? But what it also allowed them to do is they didn't move until 2003. So they didn't buy the 7 to 10 year home and then had to go and sell it and pay those costs and go buy another one. They bought the 19-year home. Just because they stretched 20%. Yeah. So I think this is
and you just got, and they got a better house, something they liked better,
Yeah. And getting an extra decade of use out of it saved them a ton of money.
It's worth something. Yeah.
And propelled them financially. So they did buy kind of the next home, but not really the next home up front.
We did it when we bought our house. We wanted to keep, when we bought this house, we wanted to
keep. Yeah, you guys did it. Yeah.
We really wanted to keep like between 3 and 350. And this is 6-7 years ago. It's like we ended up stretching our budget. It's like this thing was listed at 400.
Yeah.
Long story short, we negotiated it down because some things on inspection and whatever. But it's like the house that we got and the lifestyle that we got, and versus a 350 price point, it's running us an extra 250 a month. And 250 a month isn't anything. It's not nothing.
It's not nothing. It's $3,000 a year.
But guess what I did instead? I just bought a used car instead of a new car.
Yeah.
That's $250 a month right there.
Yeah. That's not eating out twice a month.
Yeah.
Family of 3, family of 4, not eating out twice a month, 3 times a month.
Yeah.
Not going to the movies and, renting a show on HBO or renting a show on Amazon Prime. Instead, literally going to the movies. Like I was actually thinking about going to see that new Ryan Reynolds movie because it looks hilarious. Was it Free Guy or whatever that is? If anybody's
hilarious, yeah.
Yeah. If anybody's seen it, throw that in there. But then I started thinking about it. And I'm like, movie tickets, any sort of drink, any sort of this is a $40 outing.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah.
Like forget this. This is no, thank you. Yeah. There are plenty of movies on my Apple TV, which is $9.99 a month, or Netflix or whatever it is. Yeah. I'm good. I'll wait for it.
Well, and just what we got for that extra 50,000 was like, you've been in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's like, it's awesome. It's awesome. And at the time we might still be, maybe not. At the time we were the youngest people in the neighborhood by a decade. Like, you know what I mean?
We are not the youngest people in any neighborhood.
We're not the youngest people in any neighborhood.
We're not.
Vic and his beautiful family moved down on the street. I think he's maybe 35. Yeah. Anyway. Jerk. No, I'm kidding. Great people.
Yeah.
Yeah, so pay a little bit more than what you wanted to. Anyhow, God, we were all over the place today. This is good stuff, though. It's like this isn't going anywhere.
Nope.
This just isn't going anywhere.
I feel like today we had like a little bit of a fireside chat with people thinking about buying homes that maybe sitting on the fence.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what some people needed to hear.
Yeah. You're not going to lose.
No.
Anyhow.
No. And it's interesting to me because in the short, I mean, there are short terms, and you're right, there are short terms and pockets and specific situations, right? And here's one. So in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, the NASA budget was severely just chunked down and reduced every 5-year period for 20 years, right? So there are a couple spots, couple cities where home values went down because the employment situation drastically changed. Because, and I forgot which city it was, and there was a city I was reading an article about, but how like all across America, home values had doubled in a 20-year period, but in this one city had gone down 15% because of NASA, because their employment numbers just kept going down, and they were employing at a very high wage because they're rocket scientists, literally rocket scientists.
Yeah.
But that's a specific situation. We just don't see those in the big metros like Detroit or Chicago or Houston or Austin or, Atlanta, because our employment is so diverse. Even the auto industry,
Very diverse.
I mean, we're down to what, 60,000 people across Metro Detroit that work for the auto industry. Will we feel a pinch if all 3 manufacturers close shop today? Sure, we'll feel a pinch. But it's still 60,000 people out of 3.8 million people in the 7-county area.
There's only 60,000 auto workers. Does that include white collar?
Here in the Metro Detroit area.
Yeah. Does that include white collar?
Mm-hmm. That's it. That's all we're down to.
How many jobs?
UAW. Yeah, UAW is 480,000, including Canada. Used to be over 1 million.
Do they have estimations? How many jobs does one auto job support?
It used to be 3, but I'm sure it's below that now.
Well, let's even call it 3. So that's still only 180,000 out of 3.8. Yeah.
Well, I'd look at it, right? Because look at the OEMs. Like you've got guys like Bosch or like Delphi or all those other manufacturers, which are the spinoffs. Yeah. But most of them are also doing work for Toyota and Honda and Kia and all those other companies now. Like those companies themselves, like Chevy Gear and Axle is not Chevy Gear and Axle anymore, right? They spin that off into whatever the heck it was called. Not Detroit Diesel. What did Chevy Gear and Axle become?
I actually don't know.
Yeah. I had a cousin that worked there. Anyway, maybe it was Detroit Diesel, 1 to 2. But they spun it off, right? General Motors spun it off years and years and years ago. And General Motors is still their mainstay contract, but it's not their only contract.
Yeah.
It's not the way those work anymore. Because when Delphi got spun off, right? When EDS got spun off, when these companies get spun off, at first, yes, they're extremely reliant on that parent company. But over time, they've got to protect their own shareholders.
Yeah, sure. They start to spin off. Yeah, sure.
It's just what happens. And now we're going into a new phase of auto industry where the tech is becoming so costly and intricate, it's multiple companies that have to work together, right? So now we have partnerships like Amazon and Ford, and they're coming together for autonomous vehicles because neither one of them independently can get the job done. And Ford just took away the one of the heads of Apple driving to get that done. But it's a protection for all those companies, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Like Waymo, and you've got like all of those other companies that are involved, where you've got multiple companies dumping the dollars in, like General Motors and Volkswagen, and like that partnership, and like all of those things happening because they know the future, but they can't get there unless they're as big as Apple. And General Motors and Volkswagen are not as big as Apple.
Sure.
Combined, nowhere near it.
Nowhere near it. Yeah.
So they're afraid that an Apple or a Google is going to come out and just wreck their day. And that's a legitimate fear. It's a legitimate fear. Google has put over 1 billion miles on autonomous vehicles in California.
Yeah.
They're there. The laws haven't caught up with it. Some of the tech is still faulty.
Yeah.
LiDAR didn't work the way that they hoped it would.
Yeah.
5G is now the big savior for the autonomous vehicles, but they're thinking once we get a better 5G system in the US. But GM, Ford, and Chrysler don't want to be caught out in the rain. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited for this Ford product, this electric F-150.
Yeah, a lot of people are. You see that they've doubled the expected order count for that truck.
Yeah, I might explore it.
Yeah, I think it gets what 350 miles to the charge, and it's got the quick charge tech on it.
Well, and here's the thing. It's like we've got to explore. Like,
yeah.
By the way, the Explorer's maybe I know you're a GM guy, but you know Nicole's dad worked at Ford.
Was it because he couldn't get a job at GM?
Probably. I'm kidding, Mick. If you're watching, I'm kidding. But that Explorer might be the best car I've ever owned.
Yeah,
great car. It's like so we have something that drives on gas if we need to go out of town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even then, charging stations are popping up everywhere.
Everywhere.
You know, was it I think that new Tesla that's supposed to be coming out is 100 miles on a 15-minute charge.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we're in the weeds. I gotta go.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's get out of here.
Good job today, guys.
Good job today.
See you next
Thanks
week.
for listening to us ramble a little bit about life and everything.
I know. Yeah.
We went way out there.
Conscious around here. All right.
All right, man. Let's do this. Have fun.